I want to reiterate, guys, we did this last year, and our players absolutely loved it. I appreciate Coach Richt first asking us to do it and join in our off week, but our players love to bowl more than anything. We got several guys that bowl weekly. So I got to go last year. I got to be there. I bowled one time, and it was a strike. I am not bowling again. I've never bowled a game completely in my life. I'm not going to bowl this year, but I will be there and support, and I don't want to mess up my record on that deal. So, but our players did love it now, and it's a great cause. I didn't realize the turnout we were going to have. It was huge, and obviously for a great cause. We have.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We are going to have a bunch of former players that show up, and
that's right.
Of course, there'll be some VIPs like Coach and Josh Brooks, and there's well, I won't announce one name because I'm not sure they're coming. Sorry about that.
No, there'll be a bunch of great guys, former Dogs. So many guys that played for Coach Richt will be there, and I thought last year it was awesome. And the fact that it's live, tune into it, watch it, but support it, donate, give, and that's huge because I know these guys will break. They're going to eclipse $1 million this year with the 2 years together. So, and it goes to a great cause. We've got several players on our team that actually have Crohn's disease, and so I've seen the effect of that, and anything we can do with research to help that, and obviously the Isaacson research, they do an incredible job. So a lot of respect for him. All right, guys, moving on to Texas for us. Obviously a huge matchup. It's going to be a top 10 two teams in the country. A lot of respect for Sark. I've gotten to know Sark really well over the last couple of years. We take a trip every year together, and really enjoyed getting to know him and have a lot of respect for the job he does. I mean, the most complete team that we've seen or faced this year and probably in multiple years. When you look at what they're doing defensively, offensively, and special teams, they are clearly one of the best teams in the country with what they do. Got a great quarterback, great defense, great scheme. Should be a great matchup, and this is really what you come to Georgia to play in these moments. Once again on the road, going to a place that I've never been. I assume none of our players have ever been there either for a game, so it should be exciting. Great TV, and looking for an opportunity for us to get better, because that's the most important thing is, can we show some kind of consistent improvement and play more consistent as a team. That's our goal. So with that, I'll open it up.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned Coach Sarkisian. Just how difficult is it to prepare for him as a coordinator, and Coach Flood as well? And what is something that they do that consistently causes problems that you've seen?
Well, they're balanced, and they do a great job of putting you in conflict in terms of run, pass, play action, turn your back to the ball. I mean, they can take shots. They got really good wideouts to take shots with. I think they lost a couple backs maybe at preseason camp, and I thought, okay, well, they're not going to have – these two backs they got are really good. And I'm like, man, I'm watching them against Mississippi State, who I'd seen them against last week while we were watching Mississippi State. I was really impressed. And then against Oklahoma, they even got better. So there's not like – there's these weaknesses. They're big, physical up front on defense and offense. They're built around the offensive and defensive lines. And that when you look at his record and you say, look at his record while he's been there, every year it's improved. Well, the trenches improved every year. And they're for real in the trenches. They've got really good players, and they're built like an SEC team. And it's hard to prepare for him because he knows what he's doing. Offensively, he's really different in terms of what he makes you adjust to.
Yeah, on that note, how would you assess how your pass rush has done in recent weeks in terms of affecting and impacting the opposing team's quarterback?
I don't know if you're referencing to something. I don't know, because I don't know stats. I don't look at it. I look at it game to game, and I think when we rush four guys, we do a really good job of getting home. We mix it, coverage and pressure. Go back to Auburn, we ran some 5- and 6-man pressures. One of those announcers before the game last week said that we were the highest 5-6-man pressure rate we've ever had since I've been here. I don't know the true calculations of that. Sometimes people chalking those up, don't know a guy rushing from a guy standing at the line that has the back. So I don't know if that's accurate, but we didn't do that necessarily last week because of the style of play they have. So we dictate off the offense what they do, and I'm pleased with our rushers. Our best rushers have been rushing well when they're out there, and I hope that we can affect the quarterback in some kind of way to impact the game, regardless of which week that is.
Yeah, Kirby, do you have an update on Branson coming off of Saturday?
Yeah, so Branson has a MCL. I don't know how many weeks it'll be. He will not be available this week. Forecasting it out is impossible because the MCL is one of the ones that has to heal itself. So we've had MCLs in the past, anything from 2 weeks to 3 weeks. I don't know what it's going to be, but he's going to be okay. It's just a matter of getting back. And it was not the same leg injury that he previously had. It was different.
Kirby, have you had a chance to go back and look at the incident in the Mississippi State game, the shoving? Have you had a chance to call Coach Levy and perhaps even Van Buren himself?
Yeah, absolutely, I have, and I'm glad you brought that up because after you guys said that in the press conference, I went back and watched it, and didn't even realize that I had run into him. But I reached out to Levy that night and talked to him, and he said the kid was great. And then yesterday I talked to Mike and told him, I had no intentions or ill will towards him at all. It was, if you've ever been on the sideline in a game, it's pandemonium. It's really pandemonium when you're trying to change personnel and you only got 3 to 4 seconds to do it. And we were bad off in a bad personnel grouping against empty that we actually had messed up the week before. And so I was trying to get to Schumann to get that changed. But I reached out to the kid. He was great. He's a really good player. He's going to be a good player in this league, and he played better as the game went on against us.
Coach, Quinn's obviously their starting quarterback, but Arch Manning has played a couple games this year. When you go into preparation for a quarterback, how much does that impact knowing that one has played, multiple games this year as opposed to just someone being a starter consistently throughout the season?
I don't really understand what you're saying. Do we prepare for 2 quarterbacks?
How do you go about that when you've seen tape and a lot of film on a backup as well? How much does that go into a game plan, knowing that 2 quarterbacks have a lot of tape?
No, I don't. It doesn't change how we prepare. Now, they're different style quarterbacks, but they're not really different style quarterbacks. They're both really good. I'll say this: you watch the games that Arch played. He played really well. He did some really good things. I mean, look at his numbers. He played. He comes out first couple plays against Mississippi State, ripping it and firing it in his first SEC play, and played really good. But Quinn's a great player, and they got a great quarterback. They got a great situation because they've got 2 guys that really both are capable of winning and playing well.
Hey, Kirby, what makes their defense elite?
Size, speed, 2 best front guys. I mean, every defense starts with train wreckers, big guys, physical guys at the point of attack that are hard to move. They got them. All right, they've got guys on the edge that are elite rushers. They got an elite player out of the portal. They went and got DB from Clemson who's playing really good. I mean, they patched up some holes they had, and they're the complete package on defense. They're really consistent. There's not they don't give up explosives. They're really good in the red area. They hard to run the ball on. I mean, the consistency you watch them play with, it reminds me of some of our better teams here, our best teams here. I'm like, man, they're good on D, they're good on O, they're good on special teams, and they're playing at a high level.
Coach, obviously you're pretty intense on the sideline. It might have lent itself on that particular thing. I think one of y'all's tenets is composure.
Yeah.
How would you rate yourself on sideline during games as far as composure goes?
Depends on what happened. But, I mean, realistically, I think that's something that Jackson Meeks and I talked about last year. It was great because we had a fumble or something on punt return, and I was upset with Ladd, and Jackson came over and said, composure card, coach, composure card. But sometimes that is, there's an intentional look. You got to be intense. You got to know what you got to do. You got to understand that. But that's important. Our players talk about that all the time, and I think we had several penalties in that game that had a chance to lose composure, or they had a chance to lose composure that were teaching moments too. Whether that's Damon or Chaz's or London had a play where he had a drop and came over there. I think those are great teaching moments for players, and try to do a good job helping them with that.
Yeah, Kirby, I guess one, did you notice anything about your secondary that you maybe did notice during the game when you went back and watched the tape? And 2, just what challenges does Texas's offense present with the deep shots you were talking about earlier?
It's different because the deep shots, I mean, we're talking about 2 distinctly different offenses. But when you watch the tape, when we played correctly and used the right technique, we played well. We did not win every ball. Jonell Aguero's a great example. He covered the guy exactly like he was supposed to, and the guy made a great throw and a great catch. we're going to take that. We're going to say, you know what? We're not going to win every battle. We're not going to win every 50-50 ball, but we're going to try to win more than we lose. But when you don't cover someone, period, as a coach, you're going, what is wrong here? Like we didn't cover the guy. We had bad eyes. We looked in the backfield. Things that you harp on every day, they happen. That's what offenses do. They try to give you eye candy and try to get you looking at the wrong thing. We have to remove those, right? But the Texas presents a completely different, because they'll have you sitting in the line of scrimmage because you think it's a run and they ran right by you. They'll have you looking at a motion and you don't see the guy running down the field past you. They got great speed on the perimeter. They got great size. So they present maybe a different challenge than Mississippi State, but a challenge.
Kirby, I think in August you spoke about needing to build up the number of players capable of playing winning football and how, the portal and everything was deteriorating it. I'm curious, does that at this point continue to be a challenge or an issue for this team, would you say?
No, I wouldn't say that's a challenge or issue for this team. I think it's a challenge and issue for every team, not relative to us, right? I don't think anybody, when I talk to my coaching peers and we share messages, I think everybody lacks the depth maybe they had the year before. Maybe one year you're like, oh, I got a few more linemen than I had last year. But on the whole, there's not great depth, right? Our issues have really been inconsistency, not depth. We've had some injuries in some spots, and we've got 4 or 5 starters out, depending on how you count a couple guys from injuries. But inconsistency, I would say yes. Portal / depth, no, not yet. I mean, I would like to have more guys that can play winning football. I would like to have played more players by now. But we're looking at our snap counts, and they're higher than they've been years before for the starters. Why is that? We've been in tighter, tougher games.
Kirby, when it comes to pass defense, what's the biggest metric that you guys look at to determine success?
For us, we usually do yards per attempt, including everything in that, to see yards per attempt, and it's not as good as it's been in years past. We've had a couple really good 3-4 years, and I think the Tyke, Kamari, Bullard has an effect on that because you got 3 players that were really good, drafted. You got to always have people stockpile behind it. We probably haven't played as well at that position, and we have younger players. But for us, the metric is like you have 3 or 4 incompletions and you give up a 10-yarder, well, you're okay there because you got 10 divided by 4, whatever. But when you give up a 75-yarder and a 77-yarder, that's not good. That's not, historically around here, we haven't given up massive explosives.
Coach, with the portal nowadays, it seems like you're going to come back around and see somebody that you had at some point. Bill Norton is playing for them now. What can you say about his time here, and what are you seeing from him on tape and such?
Bill Norton, what a great kid, man. This guy worked his tail off here and worked really hard. And, I go back to, I forget which year it was. It had to have been 3 years ago or 4 years ago when he was one of his key roles was special teams. And he played on our field goal protection unit and was the best at doing it we had. And he was a backup defensive tackle and played some snaps, but that was his role. And I want to say maybe the Ohio State game or one of the games we lost somebody and he had to go in and take over and play a role at that. And he did it with great pride. He was always positive and enjoyed practice and was fun to be around, funny guy. And now he's been, I guess, 2 places, and he's playing for them and he's doing a really good job. He subs in and rolls in as one of their backup DTs.
Their tight end, Helm, kind of really big game last weekend. What type of challenges he's present with his size and length?
Well, first of all, he's a tremendous blocker. He's not a one-way tight end. He's got great size. I mean, this guy's huge on film, but he's a great pass catcher. And the scheme that Sark has, they do a great job. It's not like they just say, hey, go out here and go one-on-one and get open. They're sprinting out, throwing back. They're play action, boot naked, okay, throw a screen off of it. Everything that you don't honor because you're thinking about another play, they got to play off of it that makes you honor him. And he's a tremendous blocker. I think the quarterbacks are really comfortable with him. So when you get zone elements and holes in zones, they trust him to go to be at that spot and catch the ball. But I wasn't aware of him going into the week because I had not really heard of him. And now watching tape, this guy's a really good player. And you're right, he had a big game last week.
Yeah, what have you seen out of Mykel Williams in recent weeks as he pushes through that ankle injury and tries to get out there and help you guys?
I've seen just that. I mean, you don't see much out of him until the game. I think he had 6 or 8 snaps against Auburn and 10 or 11 snaps this last game, Mississippi State. So, I mean, he looked better to me during the week this past week. So what we were able to do Auburn game was getting better to Mississippi State. And now we've gotten another week under our belt, and we're hoping that he's healthy and full and ready to go. But again, I don't know that until we get out there. But I don't get a great evaluation during the week because he's only been able to do some of the work.
Yeah, Coach, you've obviously been familiar with Sark for several years now. How much have you seen him change now that he's kind of got the full reins of the operation again, particularly as a play caller and a designer?
Yeah, I don't know that he's changed as a play caller and designer. His elite ability is to get players the ball. Like, that's what he's elite at, because he's had really good wideouts before, and they were really good. He's had really good backs, and he found ways to get them the ball. He's had good tight ends like he has now, and he's finding them ways to get the ball. I mean, his offense is it's not. I mean, it is complicated because it has motion shifts and a lot of window dressing, but he gets back to the plays that he's going to run, and he's able to be versatile enough to say, okay, I got this guy, I got to get this guy the ball. And some of the plays are like ours now, where they're not built for one player. They're built for, what does the defense do? I'm going to get it to my weapons. And there's probably more similarities between the two offenses than some of these offenses we've faced.
His overall stats, Quinn's, don't really jump off the page, but there's one thing he has, it's surprising more than Carson, his completion percentage. Is that just he's just effective in that way, leading? He doesn't really care about the, how they're scoring, but just the fact that they are scoring. I guess what jumps off the page when taking a look at Quinn as a leader for that offense?
His awareness. Like, there's nothing that he sees he hasn't seen. Quarterback, you get confidence by playing the position. You're not going to have some guy that just doesn't play and go out there and play great. He's played a lot of football. He's a really good athlete. He's been in Sark's system. I mean, I think the comparisons between he and Carson are so similar in terms of the kind of quarterbacks they are. They're both better athletes than people think. They both have awareness of coverage, and they're really good in the pocket. I mean, this guy's taking off and hurt people running when he needs to, but he also can stand in the pocket and make all the throws and change the protection. So I've really been impressed with him, but that was the case, even last year when I saw him play.
Got time for one more question.
Coach, just from an identity standpoint, what is the best case scenario? I mean, every team is a little bit different, but what are you looking for this team to fulfill as you grow it and the season progresses?
I want to see them play their best game against Texas. I mean, simply stated, we have not played our best game. We have not put a complete game together, and that's what every coach's goal is, right? To play your best game moving forward, and that's what's going to be needed to go on the road at Texas and play. We got to play better, and that's the only goal I'm thinking about right now is how we play this week. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.